Alright everybody, we're 2 days in from a devastating Kerry Hyder injury, and we're 1 day in from hearing about Brandon Copeland's injury, his season-ending injury. They're both out for the year, and right now, currently, this stat's amazing, 5 Lions defensive ends are inactive, at least for this week. That would include Ezekiel Ansah, Brandon Copeland, Armani Bryant, Kerry Hyder, and Cornelius Washington. Now, chances are Ezekiel Ansah is going to play week 1, but let's say he has a setback. Well, then who are you going to look to on that defensive line? Because there's absolutely nobody. But we'll get started just on the left-hand spot, which is where Kerry Hyder was supposed to play this year. So, who can you have instead of him? Let's first look around the actual team. You have here's probably your best option of guys on the team. It's Anthony Zettel. This is a guy who was drafted last year in the 6th round. Was very raw last year, only 1 sack and only 13 tackles. So not a whole lot going around with him, but at least he's been on the team. He has the year experience here, and we've been hearing a lot about him this training camp and in the off season. That he's been improving, been taking moves from J.J. Watt, all this good stuff. This stuff that, we like to hear. I wouldn't say he's a terrible option, but I don't think he's ready realistically, if I have to be quite honest with you. I guess we'll kind of see what happens there, but I don't know. Zettel to me just, there's nothing that's going to really zap anyone about him. Next is probably Pat O'Connor, because I only say this one because he was drafted, unlike the other two. Pat O'Connor actually had a pretty good preseason game the other day, and that's what I was going to say about Zettel. They both had all the defensive ends really had good preseason games against the Colts, but the Colts offensive line's crap, but that's its own story. Pat O'Connor had a strip sack. He was chasing around whoever it was that day, I can't remember. There was like 3 different guys. He was chasing them all down like a madman, and it was working out pretty well. That being said, I think he's practice squad material. He's not really cut out to make the team, although he probably will, because who else are they going to really look to? Jeremiah Valuega, one of the followers of my page, he's another option that you get. He had another great preseason game, but again, you face third stringers, that's the results you can expect. But you look to the first, whatever it is, 3 teams, and the Giants don't have a great offensive line, but all the other teams do, and the Falcons and the Cardinals have very, very good offensive lines. And it's gonna be rough to survive without a real pass rusher. Valuega's not really going to kill that. I'd say Valuega's practice squad cut out, just like O'Connor. And then there's Alex Barrett, another guy who had a very good preseason game. Now, of those 3 guys, at least one's making the roster, and at least one's going to be playing a very significant role week 1. So, get ready for that. Zettel's basically a lock to be the starter, unless they sign one of the guys I'm about to say. The guy everyone wants right now, in terms of just signings, is Mario Williams. Never think about Mario Williams. Last year he had 1.5 sacks. The year before that, I think the number was like 5. If you want a pass rusher, if you want a guy to go and take over for what Kerry Hyder was able to do, Mario Williams is not your solution, because he played 13 games, which isn't terrible for a guy his age. He played, he only missed 3 games. He had only 13 tackles. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's not going to work. That's not any better than what you're going to get out of any of those 4 above guys. I assure you that any of Anthony Zettel, Pat O'Connor, Jeremiah Valuega, or Alex Barrett could at least get 1.5 sacks and 13 tackles if they started the way Williams would. So this isn't really a solution. But it's the guy everyone wants, so I figured I'd bring it up. Dwight Freeney went to the Super Bowl with the Falcons last year, played 15 games, only missed one. Pretty good for a guy's age, once again 37 years old. He had 3 sacks and 10 tackles, not much better. Now the guy I'm about to say next is the guy I'd be the most intrigued by, because he's a rather young player. I think he's 29 years old. Well, it's not young, but it's younger than 2 guys I just said. Eugene Sims. Eugene Sims, he's got something that, I don't know, I kind of am interested in this one, because he only had 2.5 sacks last year, but he's been playing pretty much every single game his entire career. The most I think he's missed is 2 games. That's pretty good. And he had 23 tackles last year. That's pretty good, solid numbers. At the very least, he's a good rotational player. And to be honest, if they had to deal with him for this year as a starter, I could actually deal with that. He put up decent numbers. And that's probably the guy who I'd prefer at this point. He's not the big name that Dwight Freeney and Mario Williams are. He's not going to the Hall of Fame like Freeney, and he's not the 2000 era Pro Bowler that Mario Williams was. But he's what I would consider to be a solid option. He's remained rather consistent throughout his career, and he wouldn't be too expensive. Now, then there's the trade section of this. Sheldon Richardson, not much of a pass rusher. You might all think that, oh, he's this stud. He's a good player. I'm not gonna lie, but he only had 1.5 sacks last year. And the year before that, I think it was something like 3. That's not any better than, again, what you're gonna get out of those 4 guys that I was saying before on the Lions right now. Plus, you'd be giving up a lot of resources for a guy like Sheldon Richardson. And unless you're planning to re-sign him after this year, that's not really an option that I'd look forward to. It's not something that would really work. I mean, you'd have to give up a shit ton of draft picks. You'd have to give up, probably a player, some kind of player compensation in terms of salary cap. I don't think that's a good option. He's also going to take up a lot of the salary cap for this year. It might require to cut a guy like Haloti Ngata, and that's not what's going to happen. Everyone wants Sheldon Richardson, but there's a reason why he's on the trade block, and that's because he's not exactly a good idea. Tamba Hali, he's an older player, 3.5 sacks last year, but he's coming from a 3-4 system, and same with Sheldon Richardson, by the way. And I think you got to consider that these guys they'd be moving from a totally different scheme. Tamba Hali would have to be adjusting to a 4-3 scheme from a 3-4 he's played his entire life, his entire career, I should say. In 3 weeks, a 3-4 to a 4-3, 3 weeks. Not something I'd look to, and you're going to have to give up a pretty good amount of resources to get Tamba Hali off the Chiefs. Adrian Claiborne, he's on a contract year. I think he's 29, or 27. I can't remember. I saw the number before when I was researching the guys. He's not. He'd be able to start, but again, probably the chances that a contending team like the Falcons would want to give up a pretty good player like him last minute, not too good. And lastly, there's Coney Ely from the Patriots. Coney Ely had 4 sacks last year on the Patriots, and he's not terrible, but he's also had problems staying healthy. So I don't think a guy with health issues is exactly a good fix to what the Lions need, considering that they have 5 defensive ends right now injured. But let me know what you guys think, because it's quite honestly a tough spot that the Lions are in right now. Quite honestly, I don't think any of these guys are going to be brought in. I heard a report that they're bringing in a few unnamed defensive ends. Basically, in other words, they're bringing in a bunch of guys who are totally shit and who are not going to be actually, big names. So you're not going to get guys like Eugene Sims, because if Mario Williams was coming in or Dwight Freeney, you would have heard about it by now. You would have definitely heard, because these rumors, they fly like farts in the wind, I tell you that. And so yeah, that's about it for this. I mean, for me, preferably, I take Eugene Sims, just sign him right off, and have that be it. Unfortunately, it's not that simple. There's a lot of precautions.